Listen to the complete season ad-free by subscribing to Curious Cast Discovery exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
Airplane, five airplane. Mommy and Daddy.
It's late evening in September 1979, a deserted park in Tamil Nadu's southern India, Chellamuthu's old hangout in his hometown. There's just one small figure hunched on the swing, swinging slowly, rhythmically. It's been almost 9 months since Chellamuthu was snatched, but there are no missing posters anywhere, no police officers making door-to-door inquiries, and not a single sniffer dog has patrolled the neighbourhood streets. Because the police have no idea that Chellamuthu was kidnapped. They don't know he's disappeared. For one simple reason. His family hasn't contacted them.
They're really frightened of the police.
Chellamuthu's family is scared of the police. They're poor and uneducated. They know the authorities will want documents and paperwork, none of which they have.
So that puts them in a bad situation. So they don't want to talk.
And the police will want bribes, which they can't pay.
The police is very bad here.
So there's no official search for Chellamuthu. The trail hasn't gone cold. There just never was one. But that small figure on the swing? She's still searching. She never gives up. Because that's Arai, Chellamuthu's mother.
What's your name?
From Curious Cast and Blanchard House, this is Stop Rewind, The Lost Boy. I'm Emma Jane Kirby. Episode 3, The Promised Land. September 1979, Lincoln Home for Homeless Children, 200 kilometres from Chellamuthu's hometown. And at the orphanage, the children have a visitor, a man who's brought them something they've never seen before. Balloons. Among the children sitting cross-legged on the floor is one who's slightly taller than the rest. A boy with a very familiar, chubby-cheeked face. Chellamuthu.
I tried to escape and I couldn't. Fear brought me back, and hunger brought me back.
He's tried to run away from the orphanage several times since, but all his ventures end the same way. He's just 7 years old, after all. He's scared of the dark.
I didn't know where I was going, what direction or where I would go. And there's the fear. The orphanage was in an area where it was away from everything.
So each time he escapes, Chellamuthu ends up just wandering back.
There were some benefits to be there. Food was there. There was safety, of course.
So here he is now, watching the balloon man. And he's fascinated, not so much by the balloons, but by the colour of the balloon man's skin.
Coming from a small village, not seeing a white person ever, they were dressed nicely and, shoes, and we didn't have shoes and anything like that. And they were blue-eyed, blonde hair, it was mystical.
And there's something else about these white visitors.
And they came with treats, and so it was exciting. And each time they'd bring something, sweets or candy or balloons.
because the orphanage is acclimatizing the children.
They were preparing the children to go into a place where everybody's white.
The promised land, America.
We're going to take you and send you somewhere else, and you're going to have everything you need, and you'll be well taken care of. So the dream was sold over and over.
For Chellamuthu, it's just one long nightmare he can't shake off. He doesn't want to go forwards, he just wants to go back. But tomorrow he's leaving the orphanage to embark on a very long journey. It's the start of a whole new life.
You know, I realized I wasn't ever going home.
Late evening, December 1979. And at her home in Orem, Utah, Linda Rowland's wrapping Christmas gifts for her children. Her soon-to-be 4 children. Because in just a couple of days, her brand new son, Chellamuthu, will be arriving from India.
He was very close to coming, and so we thought, buckle up.
She knows she ought to be in bed. The baby'll wake up at the crack of dawn, and she'll regret being up late. But she's just so excited. This whole adoption process has been fraught with false starts and setbacks. First, the girl she was promised turned out to be a boy. Then, when they accepted the boy, the bureaucracy nearly killed them. Months spent shuffling paperwork and documents back and forth between Utah and Tamil Nadu.
Communication is not very good there, and letters don't always get there. The orphanage is out in the boonies, and so it's hard.
And when they finally got the green light in September, there was a last-minute hitch. In his medical, Chellamuthu was deemed fit to fly, but some of the other orphans were too dehydrated to travel. So the doctors sent them all back to the orphanage. But this time, Linda can just feel it's going to happen. Everything's set. And just wait till her new son sees his gifts. Everything a 3-year-old could dream of.
We ran to get big wheels. Do you know what big wheels are? They're like a trike that have 2 gigantic wheels on the side and one in the front, like a little motorcycle, only they can go everywhere in it and it's low. Well, we wanted him to have exactly as close as possible what the boy said.
Fred's already sound asleep when Linda comes to bed. She drops off the minute her head hits the pillow. That's when a phone call rips through her dreams and shatters them.
Hello?
A consulate called me at 3 a.m.
It's the American consulate in Madras. He's called to tell the Rowlands that he's with Paul Thurvados, the orphanage owner, who's brought 10 babies and small children who need US visas. But there's one child whose paperwork is cause for concern. A boy called Chellamuthu.
And he says, we have a boy here from India, and his little passport says he's 3. And he said, I'm here to tell you he is not 3 or 4. He's probably 7 or 8. And that just blew me away.
Linda tells Fred what's going on, but the man on the phone interrupts.
And he said, you don't have to take him. They've lied to you. Lied bad. And I said, oh boy,
Linda and Fred are in turmoil. If Chellamuthu's nearly 8, he'll become their eldest child, exploding the sibling pecking order.
And that's breaking good rules for adoptions because it disturbs the ranks in the family. You're just asking for trouble for your family.
And something else is nagging them. Something that makes their stomachs queasy. If Paul's lied about Chellamuthu's age, what else isn't he telling them?
I was mad. How could he do this? And so I said, I cannot give you an answer now.
Linda and Fred need time to let this sink in, to think it through. But the man at the end of the phone apologizes. The problem is, there is no time. Paul and Chellamuthu have a flight to catch, and they need to get to the airport.
He says, I've got to have an answer within 2 hours because he's got to be on a train. He's got to catch the train. And if he misses the train, then he's not going to come.
So Fred and Linda have just 2 hours to make one of the most important decisions of their lives. Do they allow Chellamuthu to begin his journey to America, or do they stop him right there? Fred is pacing the bedroom, praying for guidance. But Linda? Linda walks downstairs and sits alone by the Christmas tree. She looks at all those wrapped gifts, the shiny festive paper and the red ribbons. But in her heart, she already knows the answer, because she's got a gut feeling about this.
I just knew I did not want him to come.
December 1979, 40,000 feet above the North Atlantic Ocean, and slumped in his airline seat is an Indian man wearing big black-rimmed glasses. It's Paul Thurbados, the orphanage owner. In the seat to his right are 2 sleeping toddlers huddled together under a blanket, while in the window seat to his left sits a small chubby-cheeked boy dressed in shorts and flip-flops. And he's staring through the cabin window, wide-eyed and open-mouthed.
I don't know if it was excitement or apprehension.
It's Chellamuthu. Because in the end, when Linda got that call from the American consulate, she just couldn't do it. She couldn't refuse him. I mean, she still had that photograph in her sitting room, the little boy with the serious eyes that seemed to be pleading. And anyway, what would happen to Chellamuthu if they refused to take him? How could Linda live with that on her conscience? So despite her deep misgivings, Linda sends a telegram to the consulate in Madras saying she accepts Chellamuthu, whatever higher age. If you ask Taj to remember this journey to the States, he becomes visibly distressed.
I recall it was nighttime, I know that.
As he forces himself to sit back and remember what it was like to be in Chellamuthu's window seat, Taj looks away. It's too painful for him to remember the terrified little boy he once was. He rubs his hands up and down the legs of his jeans when he tries to speak.
I don't remember those details.
Because this isn't an adventure for Chellamuthu. All he knows is that this big jet plane is taking him further and further from home, from his mother. But one person does remember this journey in more detail, or at least part of it, because the plane makes a few stops en route, and when it touches down in New York, that's when Stan Summerall gets on board to help Paul with the final leg of the journey. But there's heavy snow on the ground, so the plane's stuck for hours on the tarmac.
And so I'm sitting there with Taj.
He means Chellamuthu, of course. That was his name at this stage in the journey.
And then we had the other children right around us, all of them.
All 11 of them, and all scantily dressed and shivering under blankets.
There was malnourishment. They had the big little bellies, and they were just darling kids.
And the other passengers on board are also enchanted by these cute little children from India, until
the hostess of the plane came back and she said, "Stan, we've got a problem."
Stan's heart sinks.
And I said, "What's the problem?" She said, "These kids have lice." And as I was looking at Taj, I could actually see it crawling.
The plane takes off. But for the rest of the flight, the other passengers keep their distance. And at just after 1 o'clock in the morning, the plane lands at its final destination.
I don't think the feelings or emotions kicked in until I landed into Salt Lake City Airport.
There's a photograph of the children's arrival at the airport. It's stuck into a scrapbook that Linda made, and it shows Chellamuthu cowering in the chaos of the terminal, clinging to the orphanage owner, Paul Thurvados.
It was just a different level of fear that crept in.
Chellamuthu's mouth hangs open in shock, and the whites of his eyes are rolling in terror. He looks like an animal being led into a slaughterhouse.
He was just screaming his head off.
I don't understand anybody, what they're saying. I can't communicate. There's, it's so foreign.
Everybody was looking at us like we were doing something wrong. Those rotten people are taking this kid.
I was being handed over to, a white person, and I'm going from one scary thing to another scary thing, and it's just getting from bad to worse.
Paul had him in his arms, and he did not want to get down.
She picked me up, and I was trying to get away from her and going back to Paul.
And it was 1 a.m, so luckily there weren't that many people there. But there were enough people that thought we were demons, I know.
I can't do anything. I can't. It's forced upon me, and there's nothing I could do to run away from it.
Eventually, Linda manages to wrestle her new son from Paul's legs, and she and Fred whisk him away to the car.
He was just sobbing the whole time, and so I didn't know what to do, and I just took a blanket and wrapped around him because it was cold.
Remember, it's Christmas time in Utah, and there's deep snow on the ground.
He had no clothes. He had a pair of shorts, no underwear, a little T-shirt, no shoes, no socks. He carried some flip-flops in his hand. He was freezing.
Linda bundles the shivering little boy into the family car, trying to soothe him, but Chellamuthu becomes hysterical.
We were all scared, all of us scared.
But no one's more scared than Chellamuthu. Because the last time he was alone in a big car at night, that's when he was kidnapped.
I was trapped, and oh my hell, what is happening to me? The whole world is changed. The whole world.
You stayed in bed. You were so sad. You made our hearts ache for you.
Linda now has 3 small sons to look after, plus a baby. But somehow she still finds a few minutes each day to scrawl a couple of lines in her diary. She's writing to her new son. And what she writes, well, it tells you everything about Chellamuthu's first day in his new home.
You looked so confused and hurt.
Chellamuthu has woken up not in the familiar mud hut in his village in India, not even in the Lincoln Home orphanage, but in a big, strange house in Utah, USA. A house full of white people.
I pulled the covers back, sat next to you, and kissed you, and began stroking your hair. You began to cry and sob, hiding your head in your pillow.
Because Chellamuthu, he doesn't see a new mum or new loving parents. He sees something quite different.
Oh, I see them as captors.
I picked you up again and just let you cry on my shoulder.
All I want is I want to go back to what's familiar. I want to go back to somebody that I know, that I love. And these people, it's all kind of, it's just too much.
Linda and Fred try everything to soothe him. Linda even tries rocking him like a newborn. Because for her, the bond between them's already cemented.
Today, at last, you know we love you, we want you, and we're proud of you. Bye for now, Mom.
But Chellamuthu doesn't feel comforted by Linda's kindness. He feels smothered by it. He has the same feeling he had in India when he got swept out of his depth in the river playing with his brother. It's like he's going under.
It reminded me of myself in this river, that I was being pulled away and being sucked in, and I was going to drown.
His new brothers are the ones to finally distract Chellamuthu from his homesickness, particularly the baby, Jerem, who, unbeknown to anyone else, is the same age as his own little brother back in India.
He loved the baby. He loved Jerem a lot. He liked to pick him up and rock him. I think the baby comforted him, really.
Then the older boys invite Chellamuthu to join them on the sofa, where they're watching cartoons on a television. Suddenly, Chellamuthu isn't crying anymore.
He was enthralled with TV. He was just like this, just staring. He couldn't imagine it. He was excited with that. And, of course, he couldn't understand a word, but he was watching all the time with the boys.
And TV isn't the only thing that leaves Chellamuthu open-mouthed.
There was also that, intrigue of hot water, running water, turning on taps, snow outside, and the inside it's hot. And it was also Christmas and people giving you gifts and a lot of change. And so it's a very confusing.
Christmas just floors Chellamuthu.
He couldn't put it together.
The whole concept of gifts.
He would just sit there and we'd hand him a present and he'd look at us and we'd say, open it up, open it. I mean, he just didn't get it. And he didn't get that they were his.
He's also bewildered by food.
We had a lot of problems with him. He would steal.
Well, how's he to know if there's enough food to go round or when it's going to run out?
One time I bought a bag of those little oranges and I gave him one, and then a little bit later I was back in the kitchen and there wasn't any oranges in there.
Linda's baffled until she goes to tidy Chellamuthu's room, and there she sees his bed is looking decidedly lumpy.
He had taken all the oranges and hidden them under the pillow because he was afraid he wasn't going to get any more.
Chellamuthu's in survival mode. What if he's left to go hungry again?
I did that because I didn't know. Are they good people? Are they bad people? I don't know.
And Chellamuthu's not just malnourished from a lack of food. He's emotionally famished.
It's a starvation. It's a craving. When I say starvation, I'm like starvation from what I already have and being yanked away from it.
So while Linda and Fred try to pet and reassure their new son, Chellamuthu's having none of it.
His eyes told a lot of things. That he was not happy, and he was telling you, don't do that, or I don't like you.
Linda feels totally rejected, especially in the days after Christmas, when Paul Thervados, the orphanage owner, pays them a visit. Linda and Fred have been lied to by Paul. Remember, he told them Chellamuthu was only 3, so they're not exactly feeling the love for this man. But when Chellamuthu understands that Paul is coming, well, it's like royalty's in town.
So he came up with a pair of shorts on, and I remember a red and blue T-shirt with stripes, and I think the shorts were green, and he had a tie on that was hanging way down here.
Chellamuthu dressed to impress.
He wanted to show off for Paul, and that was so cute. That was so cute. It made me cry.
As Chellamuthu proudly shows Paul what Santa bought him for Christmas, a spaceship, a trike, roller skates, and even a watch, Fred and Linda give the orphanage owner a frosty reception. You see, it's not just them Paul has duped. Stan Summerhill has been on the phone. He's the man who arranged the adoptions and accompanied the children on that last leg of their journey. Stan tells Fred and Linda that a doctor has just examined his own newly arrived son, and that doctor puts the supposed 2-year-old at more like 5.
I was upset. I was mad. I was trying to control myself,
So, sitting round their kitchen table, Linda comes right out with it.
I said, Paul, you have been very dishonest with us about this child. You don't know how close we were to just saying, forget it.
The problem is it's difficult to stay angry with Paul. He's charming, and he's so attentive to Chellamuthu, who chatters to him excitedly non-stop in Tamil. And when Paul does get a second to respond to Fred and Linda, he's not on the defensive.
And he was very quiet and sober. And finally he said, Linda, I'm sorry. He says, I did lie to you.
Linda and Fred wait while Paul admires Chellamuthu's spaceship and his new radio set. Then Paul looks Fred and Linda in the eye.
He said, but I do anything I have to do to get one of those kids out of India.
And at that moment, Linda understands. Okay, Paul tricked them, but his motivation was pure. It was altruistic. He lives in India, after all. He's seen plenty of children like Chellamuthu starving in the street. And which good Christian wouldn't strive to give such kids a better chance?
And I could see the man's heart sitting at our table, and he was just telling the truth. That's all there is to it, that he wanted to get those kids out so that they could have a life.
So Linda and Fred make their peace with Paul, especially because they can see he has a real bond with their boy.
He said, this kid's different. He's really got some potential.
Paul hands over the rest of Chellamuthu's adoption paperwork, and they all shake hands.
And sat right on the couch with Paul and watched TV. And it was so cute. You were so proud and wanted to...
That night, Linda's too tired to write her journal, so she gets out an old cassette recorder and records her thoughts onto tape. She imagines Chellamuthu listening to this audio, once he's learnt English, of course, sometime in the future. And she wants Chellamuthu to remember Paul, the kind man who gave him this chance.
When you left Paul, you had a very difficult time, and it was hard to take you from Paul. You were frightened and so scared and so worried. We could see it all over your face. So we weren't sure you wanted to.
For his part, Chellamuthu's distraught. He's realised Paul's returning to India without him. And he knows that Paul is never coming back. He feels utterly betrayed.
Paul Thurvdas, he dumped me. He dumped me in another country.
With Paul gone, the last thread to Chellamuthu's homeland and to his language is severed. And that's when Linda has a brainwave. Forget her own musings. She'll record Chellamuthu on tape, speaking in Tamil, in his mother tongue. That way, he'll never forget.
Hi, I'm Chellamuthu.
I kept telling him to talk in the tape. Talk in the tape. And then I'd rewind it so that he could hear himself talk, and he was amazed.
After a few false starts, Chellamuthu finds his voice.
I just felt like we needed to do it so that he could, as he got older, he could understand. We weren't his enemy. We were trying to help him.
So Chellamuthu dares to recount his story, the story the kidnappers warned him never to tell. He records every detail he can still remember, everything he knows about his family, like his mother's name, Arai.
Arai.
And then he lists the names of his brothers, his sister, his aunts and uncles. And then...
I had no idea what he was saying, neither did anybody else.
Where did you live? Where was Dr. Boffled?
He doesn't understand me, and I don't understand him at all.
So when the boys are all in bed, Linda just tidies away the tape, pops it into a box, along with all the paperwork Paul's just given her. Chellamuthu's Indian passport with the fake birth date, the adoption approval letters from the Indian court. And there's also a document that Linda reads and then very quickly folds back into the envelope, because it just makes her tear up. You see, that document, it's a certificate. that says Chellamuthu's birth mother is dead. You've been listening to Stop Rewind, The Lost Boy, a Blanchard House production for Curious Cast. It's hosted, written and produced by me, Emma Jane Kirby, with additional production by Himat Shalagram. Stop Rewind, The Lost Boy is inspired by the book The Orphan Keeper by Cameron Wright. We'd like to make it clear that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has never promoted or facilitated the adoption of children from Paul Thervados' orphanage, Lincoln Home for Homeless Children. On the Ground interpreting by Smita TK. Additional research by Catherine Gillon. Original music by Toby Matamon, Louis Nankmanel and Daniel Lloyd Evans. Sound design and mix engineering by Volkan Kizeltuk, Daniel Lloyd Evans, Toby Matamon and Louis Nankmanel. Post-production supervised by Daniel Lloyd Evans. The creative director of Blanchard House is Rosie Pye. The head of content at Blanchard House is Lawrence Grizel. For Blanchard House, the executive producers are Amika Shortino-Nolan and Lawrence Grizel. For Curious Cast, the executive producers are Dina Velasquez and Chris Duncombe.